Welcome to the Sleevie G Show. I'm the host with the most. My name is Gomez, and today another special guest. And I will say this: I have back-to-back shows with alumni from my old high school, which is always awesome. And I had Steven Diaz come, our El Presidente of our high school class, our senior year. Now I'm going to bring another special guest. I've known her for another 20 some odd years too, just like the rest of my classmates. She's a former New York City Broadway performer. But she's here actually. We're going to talk something a little more serious tonight. And I'd like to bring in Angela Brydon Egan. What's up, Angela? First of all,
What's up?
long time
How
no
are
see.
you?
I am so good. And you still look the same as I remember your senior year.
So do you.
No, I got older. I got the white hair now going. I got
You look fantastic. You look fantastic.
Thank you. So do you. And it's
Thank you.
been 20 some odd years since I actually have like literally put face to face with you. Same thing with like
Yes.
Steven too. It's been so long, and we try to do our reunions, but our reunions never seem to get together. I hope
We
if
never get together. Something about that class of
yeah, that's
'99.
what's funny. We were talking about that. I think that's the other reason our episode went almost an hour and 45 minutes because we were talking about our class. So,
Oh my goodness, we had quite the class.
we had quite the class, but we also had quite the crew though. And I'll say our class, as much as we did get in trouble, in good ways and bad ways, but we were always there for each other. And here we
Yes.
are 20 years later. And Angela, I've known you for such a long time, and we always talked, we always said hi to each other. We always hung out at the parties at high school, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
today's a little bit of a special episode for me. This is something serious, and as we bring it up, we're going to be talking about autism. I
Yes.
know we just had April's Autism Month. I wish I was able to do it at that point, but it shouldn't be 1 month. It should be 12 months out of the year that we should be raising awareness on this.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
for me to know this that your son was autistic, which
Yes.
was kind of a little bit of a surprise for me because like I said, you're the first person I know that actually said it to me. It's like, no, my son's autistic. And a lot of people like to keep that under wraps and secretly, but I think if more people come out, there's going to be more support of the community of the autistic children or adults too, to
Yes, absolutely.
help out each other. Now your son is now what, 4, right? You said,
He'll
or
be 4 in July.
oh, okay, July is a good
He'll be 4
month
in
because
July.
my son
Yeah.
was born in August and I got married in July, so.
Yes. July 14th, he'll be 4.
Ooh, missed it by a couple of days. I was 7-11. I was married, so we were off a couple of days. But now we talked online, and you told me, but I want to let people hear your story, how you found out that your son was autistic. Like this has to be a complete shocker for you, especially with you being a NYC Broadway performer for so many years. I think you're what, 30 years in the business, right? I think you said
30 years. 30 years, yeah.
That's a long time.
A long time, yes.
And I
I
remember,
started out as a child, yeah.
yeah, and I remember even in high school when you would miss a couple of pockets of weeks because you were performing, you know what I mean? We're always like,
Yeah.
next thing we see you one day, and the next thing we're like, where's Angela? Like, and but then I see you like at the game or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But 30 years is a great career. I gotta say that for anybody who does that.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I was blessed. I had
and
a great run. And
and
yeah. And my son, when my son was about, let's see, probably about 12 months old,
mhm,
it was almost like a light switch went off, and milestones that he hit up to then, he suddenly regressed. There was a major regression.
okay.
So he was making eye contact. He was crawling. He was starting to like stand up to walk and making eye contact and babbling and saying dada and starting to attempt to say mama. And so he was doing everything perfect.
Hmm.
And then one morning I woke up and I was like, hey, tell me, what's wrong with you? Just no eye contact,
Oh
started
wow.
kind of zoning out, like looking up into space. Well, what I call looking up into space,
Right,
just kind of
right.
like looking around. And I'm like, that's strange. and stopped babbling, stopped talking completely. And I noticed that when he would stand up and when he started to walk, it was on his toes. He wouldn't put his heels down.
Okay.
So he was constantly toe walking, and then when he really started walking, he started spinning in circles.
Oh,
That was kind of how he would stimulate himself.
okay.
He'd spin in circles like a dog chasing its tail. And I was like, oh, that's so cute, still
Yeah, I would
kind
have
of
said,
oblivious to what's going on.
yeah, I
Because,
probably would have done
I
the same thing.
so I said something to my pediatrician, and she said, well, I said, is this normal? And she goes, everybody's different. Like, we'll see. We'll see where he's at. I
Hmm.
said, something's just off. Something's just different. I feel like mothers really, your kid.
Intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, my intuition. I was just kind of, what is going on with him? And then the milestones that he should have hit, he just never hit. And then by the time he was 2 years old, I pretty much knew. I was just waiting to that 2 year mark where my pediatrician would say, okay, now we have to seek a developmental pediatrician, because he
Okay.
didn't answer to his name, didn't respond to his name at all.
Hmm.
And he was making very little eye contact. And then the only way he could communicate with me was by banging his head. He would
Ooh.
bang his head into hard surfaces, walls, the floor, out of frustration. Out of frustration
And
because
that's
he's
difficult
completely nonverbal.
and that's very difficult to see your child doing that. It's, I mean, I'm kind of, as a father now myself of a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm listening to this already. It's like I'm already kind of a little misty eyed because it's hard to see this as your own child.
Yes.
You would never think, it would happen to you, but it, it's
Yeah. And I have a daughter that's, they're 22 months apart. So
Mhm.
I know they say you can never compare the two, but it was pretty, you know, I could compare. I was like, well, I know no two kids are the same, but this isn't, maybe if I was a first time mother, I wouldn't have realized so much. But
Mhm.
in comparison to my daughter, I was like, this is completely different. Something
Right.
doesn't, my intuition said this is something more. And believe it or not, my mom ran a daycare, and she still runs a daycare actually. And I would stop in from time to time, and um, there were kids on the spectrum there. And I
Mhm.
saw a lot of my son. So it just brought back memories. And I was like, I think I know what's going on here, but I'm not a doctor. And I was
Right.
just waiting for a doctor's opinion. But I pretty much knew from 15 months on that he was most likely going to have autism spectrum disorder. And my suspicions were right. I got the best developmental pediatrician in Hackensack.
Mhm.
I know that normally there's a 2 year friggin' wait.
Oh yeah.
So it was like something like 1 in 44 kids are diagnosed on the spectrum, but it went up. Now it's 1 in 36. By
Mhm.
the time a child is 8 years old, they pretty much know 1 in 36 are diagnosed on the spectrum. And to get a developmental pediatrician, sometimes it's a 2 year wait. And I was blessed again because my high risk doctor that delivered my son, actually both my kids, works out of Hackensack Hospital. And
Okay.
I text messaged him. I said, listen, what could you do for me?
Right.
And he got it done, and he got me in. And the doctor was so pissed. She was like, do you know how many people are waiting for this? And blah, blah, blah. I said, I do. I said, and I'm just blessed to be here.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative, but I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get my kids seen. So I'm coming in. I said so. I went in. I went in, and it was like 3 hours. She sat with me with him. It was like
Wow.
a
I mean,
3 hour ordeal. Mm-hmm.
wow. I don't know what I would do for, again, 3 hours. I mean, again, God bless you, Angela, because I mean, my son has egg allergy now. So, we're very careful in his first few months, when he was born, we didn't know he had an allergy. All of a sudden he broke out to a rash, and, food allergy is very common now. And but he had to fight for cheese, eggs, and poor kid as he's seeing his older sister eat like pizza.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I know it's not the same, but seeing, what you've gone through, like parents don't realize like food allergies is a serious thing. Autism is a serious, serious thing because it's a chemical imbalance, unfortunately, that cannot be corrected. But if the training is working and the kids are, and even the adults, I'm not going to just say kids, adults, because I've seen adults who are autistic and they do great things. Actually, I
Yes.
have there is a ice cream shop right here in where I live in Pine Brook, Seven Scoops, and they actually
Hmm.
have autistic adults working there
Yes.
with the kids,
Yes.
and
That's wonderful.
that's awesome because they do a great job. They
Yes.
get treated like family. They get treated like they're part of the crew working, and I love seeing that. And kids are starting to be that same way to help out each other. Um,
Yes.
Now, with that said, now I know, like I said, you had a 30-year career. Were you still on Broadway still when you found out your son was autistic, or were you pretty much on the
Yeah.
verge of retiring?
I actually was in between. I was in limbo because I had decided that I was going to go back
Okay.
to Broadway and to New York after I had my daughter, but I was waiting for her to get into preschool.
Hmm.
And as soon as she got her foot in preschool, I got pregnant again. So, like I said, they're 22 months apart. So then my son came along, and I said, well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll wait till he's in school
Hmm.
and they're settled, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do. And then, I pretty much had a hunch that, he was most likely going to be diagnosed, or there was
Right.
something neurological going on that I had to look into. And I did have my son tested for seizures and all that stuff with a
Hmm.
neurologist as well. So I wanted to cover all my bases, but I did get offered to do a show last March called The Life. That was at City Center in New York City.
Okay.
And I said, and this was right after my son was diagnosed, pretty much. Like, we were maybe like 8 months, 10 months in, and I said, you know what? Let me try it. And
Hmm.
I went because it was a short gig,
Okay.
and it just didn't feel right. My son regressed a little bit.
Yeah.
I was coming home so late, and my husband works too, and it was just kind of like he just is so crucial for me to dive in and be there for him, because I'm his
Mhm.
person.
Right.
I pretty much understand him the most out of everybody.
Hmm.
And at the time, he really wasn't that verbal. So, I said, I guess that's it. I'm gonna, I told my agent and I
Hmm.
told everybody, I'm gonna retire for now because my kids are the most important thing, and I have to make sure that I do the work
Hmm.
for my son. So I pretty much
And
for now.
and hats off to you, Angela, because
Thank you.
that is hard to do because like you said, you've done it for 30 years. And as long as I've known you, we always knew you were a great performer, great actress too. And we
Thank
know,
you.
you were, like I said, we've known each other for so long, and we seen you blossom from freshman year all the way to senior year, and you went on. And, it was kind of funny. I was laughing a little bit when I was talking to Steve. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have Angela on and we're going to talk about this. He goes, no way. I go, yeah. And I go, it's amazing how she's gotten too, man. She's got her family. She's married, looks like to a really nice guy. And I'm like, and it's kind of fun. Like I see all of us, like, I still talk to Jessie once in a while and,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Instagram. I see her sister at the St. Mary's functions, actually bumped into her at the beefsteak. So
Okay.
when I see our crew or part of the family crew, it just brings back so much good memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
And high school was such a crucial year for all of us too. Except I was the only guy who had the license at our sophomore year. I was the first one to have a license out of everybody, but that's why now I wonder why everyone became good friends with me at that point. I looked like I was 30 and I could get beer for all of us, and then I had a car already.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? That
No,
never
no.
bothered me because I knew who were my true friends. If you needed a
Yes, it was a special group. It was a special group. I mean, everybody busted each other,
Oh
but
yeah.
when it came down to it, you'd go to bat for that person, you
Oh
know.
yeah, without a doubt. Like, and I remember you said that. It's like, she goes, I mean, I remember you in high school, you would be there for everybody, whoever needed something, you know.
Whoever. I was like a little chihuahua, like this big, but I had a mouth.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. I
And
was
I
like
still have a mouth.
but that's okay though. I'm like a Saint Bernard, but if you come at me now, I'm like a Rottweiler because I will bite your head off. But the thing is, like, we had such a great crew, you know what I mean?
We
Um,
did.
and that's one thing. And like, here we are now, 20 years later, we're talking about this because it's very important to you. It's starting to become really important to me because I'm learning a lot more about this because, again, you're the very first person that actually talked openly about it that I know of.
Yes, I know that for years it was taboo to discuss something like this. You
Hmm.
kind of saw people,
Yeah.
in your school, in your social setting, you knew something was going on, but it was just kind of like, oh, everything's fine, they're just, different and blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. But like, yeah, and it's okay to be different. Like, this is completely who they are. And I
Right.
just felt like, you know what, it's 2023. We really need to raise awareness
Yeah.
for acceptance and also awareness for the families who are going through something like this, just to go to a store
Mhm.
and have your son maybe sensory overload, have a meltdown in the middle of ShopRite where people are looking at you and looking at your son and right away thinking, oh, that mother doesn't have her stuff together. He's being a brat.
Yeah.
And like mumbling things under their breath
Yeah.
and having to like swallow that because I know that they don't know. They just are unaware. It's not that it's malicious. It shouldn't be said. It shouldn't be done, but they're just so unaware. And the reason they're unaware is because people don't talk about it enough.
No, they don't.
It's not taught in schools. Nobody really knows what it is unless you have a parent who's willing to advocate and come to your school or come on a podcast like myself and explain. These kids hear everything, they understand everything, they just don't communicate the way us neurotypical people do. Their
Hmm.
brains are wired differently. And sometimes during a meltdown and a tantrum are completely different things.
Hmm.
A tantrum, your kid can gain control. In a meltdown, it's out of their control. Sometimes they're not even registering what they're doing in the
Right.
moment. And you can't reason in that moment. You just have to get down to their level and hold space for them and realize that with a little bit of training and therapy, I've learned how to minimize those meltdowns and help my son through that, coach him through that. It's like basically having a major panic attack out in public,
Hmm.
but like not like thinking.
Ooh, you froze. Did I freeze? Oh no. Angela, you hear me? I think I might have froze.
Hear you.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, I
Oh,
see you
there we go.
now.
Yeah, there you go. You just froze that little bit. Sorry, you were just in a
Okay.
good explanation, and you just froze.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Um, I heard you part saying, like how you were just training your son for meltdowns and helping out, and that's where we just lost you right there.
Yes, I just think it's important to show this,
Mm.
to let people know, because sometimes, when you're out in public, um, you just want them to know that these kids do have feelings and they do understand everything. And there's just some things that they can't control,
Mm.
and I guess as parents, we have to be their voice, even though my son is verbal now, but he's a Gestalt language processor. So
Right.
he communicates very differently. He doesn't communicate the normal language. He memorizes everything. He
Hmm.
scripts. He learns his language in chunks.
Okay.
rather than word for word. So he refers to himself in the third person a lot because it kind of takes the pressure off of um, himself in a way. It's kind
Hmm.
of like his self-soothing mechanism because,
Right.
to find the words to actually articulate and make a sentence he struggles with. But he could read a book. He can script an entire movie or a story word for word. He could put himself in a situation where he might be at a doctor's office and feel extremely nervous. And then all of a sudden you'll hear him babbling, but he's talking about um, his favorite superhero, Groot, because Groot gives him confidence in that moment, you know? So,
And Despicable Me,
you know,
and Minions.
he's starting to actually speak and ask for basic wants and needs on his
Okay.
own without being prompted to do so, which is a huge step right now in his development. So I'm very happy about that.
You actually
So
had a
we're getting there. We're getting
Yeah,
there.
you had a clip not too long ago. You guys were out, it looks like for lunch, and you're asking what do you got there, and he was saying cheeseburger, and he sounded
He's
perfect. And
perfect.
you
Yep.
you wouldn't realize that, but again, some people don't realize things like that because it's like you said, it's they'll know it through the meltdowns. They won't know what's going on in each family life. You know what I mean? Uh,
No, that's why I say you never know what a person is going through. That's why it was a big lesson for me, to always be kind, not judge, because,
mhm.
sometimes you're looking at something and it's just not what you think. You never know what somebody is battling. And I've learned that. And
Yeah.
let me tell you something, there's a lot of good people out there. I was in Walgreens and my son had a meltdown and he was screaming and actually hitting me and biting himself
Right.
and doing all kinds of things. Scary, and I couldn't control him. Believe it or not, he's so strong. And when he tenses up and he hits the floor, it's like, and I just didn't want him to bang his head. Sometimes he'll bang his head.
Hmm.
I couldn't get him up. And there were like 5 people online, but he really wanted this toy. And I was like, forget the toy. Grabbed him, scooped him up, ran to the car, got him in the car. And this lady picked up the toy and bought the toy for my son and came running out to my car.
See,
And
that's
she was
cool.
like, I get it. Don't worry. And all she said to me was, you're doing a great job. And I bawled. That's all. That's all you have to say. Somebody that just gets it, whether your child is neurodiverse like my son or neurotypical, if you're having a bad day and a kid's having a bad day, like, just tell us we're trying our best, we're doing a good job, and hold space for us. And if you do that, she made my world. She has
Hmm.
no idea what she did that day for me.
Well, I gotta say, hearing all this stuff, you know what I mean? Like you said, you're living it, you know it, you are seeing it every day, every night. You know what it's like. And me not knowing, I'm gonna tell you myself, hearing it, I feel like you're doing a truly awesome job too, Angela. As long
Thank
as
you.
I've
Thank
known, because again, no one really speaks out. Like you said, no one speaks about this and it's taboo. It shouldn't be. You know what I mean?
you. Yeah.
People suffer from a lot of different things. Anxiety is one, depression is another, autism is another thing. These are all chemical imbalance type things. You know what I mean? Like anxiety. I do suffer from anxiety from the whole COVID thing because
Oh, wow.
I am high risk patient. I'm type 2 diabetic. So of course I am always worried about getting COVID.
Yeah.
My anxiety level was to the roof. Um,
Right.
so for me, my coping mechanism at that point was trying to do things with my hands. Like I actually did adult coloring books. Um,
That's amazing.
that's one thing that started to calm me down. I was building, I overbuilt way too many Legos here. So it's like mini Legoland in my house with Yodas, Batmobiles, Ferraris, all these cars and stuff. And that's another way I cope because I would lose my mind for an hour or two and to
Right.
do things. But having to, I wouldn't say having to deal, but having to cope with you have to do every day is a true commitment to who you are. And a lot of people, I know people might not know what's going on, but me hearing you today and hearing this, it's so important because I think once this comes out and we talk about it, I think there's going to be a lot more people who will start probably reaching
Well,
out
I
to
like to
you.
talk about, the good, bad, and the ugly, because I think, there are many beautiful qualities that my son possesses.
Mm,
He's hyperlexic, and he's, meaning that he's extremely bright, like he read past his chronological age, like he's fixated on numbers, and and he's got a lot of beautiful qualities, but you know I have him first and foremost in one of the best places in the world, FTC Kids in Little Falls. Anybody that's listening, if your kid's on the spectrum, go there. These people will love your child and accept them for who they are.
that's awesome.
They offer the parents therapy. We are like a team. Like it's incredible. These therapists that Tommy has are phenomenal. He receives speech, occupational, physical, and ABA. He's with a behavior
Okay.
analyst too, and a BCBA, and they are incredible. My son has made so much progress, and they offer support for the parents, which is
That's
very
real.
important, because if I'm not regulated and I'm not in the right place, how could I be there for my son? And a lot of these skills that they've given me, they apply to your children that
Hmm.
aren't autistic. Like I apply this with my daughter, like
Right.
this is just, these are good tools and good therapeutic skills to have for yourself and for your family.
Hmm.
And it's changed my life drastically. And you know, it's pushed me to go down this route, to kind of advocate and like put myself out there. Um, so yeah, it's truly incredible. But my son, he possesses so many beautiful qualities, but I think people need to know that with that, there's also, there's some struggles, and we
Hmm.
need to talk about that too, so that there's not somebody out there, with a child who's autistic and is saying, well, how come her life, with her son looks so grand all the time? And how come my son's like that? Each person is different. The spectrum, excuse me, is very broad. And each person is their own entity. And, you know, um, like any child, they're going to have good days and bad days, and we can talk about the bad days. Don't make it taboo. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's dive in and let's talk about it.
Like,
So
what's like for you? What I know you said he had a meltdown at Walgreens that one day, but does he have more good days than bad days, or does he have more bad days
yes,
than good days?
no, he has more good days than bad days. Absolutely. It kind of goes in waves.
Okay.
I find that with Tommy, whenever he's having a major growth,
Hmm.
which is a positive thing, he'll have these setbacks with the meltdowns.
Okay.
So kind of like, a balancing act. And
Okay.
right now, his major growth is his language. He's
Okay.
really starting to step it up with the language. And um, so I have a feeling that's why his transitioning isn't going so well, because everything has to be predictable, everything has to be routine. And if you switch up his routine, or
Hmm.
I switch up my routine, it kind of, creates the perfect storm for him.
Now, I guess now, my question to you is like, what, and again, I wouldn't know, but you would know the best with Tommy. What would be a bad day for him? Like, how would that actually look like? Like, let's just talk about it. And that's
A
what
bad
happened.
day would be anywhere from, I mean, I've had him have meltdowns for like 2 hours,
Hmm.
almost three, where he would just scream. And the best thing you can do if there's a parent out there with a child who's having a meltdown is to say less,
Hmm.
get down to his level, get down on the floor, obviously make sure that they're not self-harming to where they're going to hurt themselves, but just get down and just exist and let him ride it out. I add deep pressure. I call it deep pressure input.
Hmm.
So you can do that. Like my son loves the feeling of like his jaw being like, rubbed, or that
Massaged.
pressure kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, or massaged. I do his shoulders. I hug him tight. I put him on the floor on like a big pillow,
Hmm.
and I apply my weight on top of him and I hold him.
Mm.
And just that tight pressure is somewhat self-soothing to regulate him. I
Hmm.
breathe in his ear. All I do is breathe, like meditation,
Right, right.
just so his nervous system can calm down, because right now he's not registering what's going on. He's on sensory overload. His brain is misfiring. He's having a meltdown. So you just want to be there to support him so that he doesn't hurt himself,
Hmm.
and say less. Say less, do more. Do
Right.
more. Say less, do more. But sometimes for him to like come completely down, sometimes it takes 2 hours, and then it's a burnout. Then he's asleep for the rest of the day or the rest of the night.
Wow.
But
Wow.
that's what a bad day would look like. Lots
Yes.
of lots of biting, lots of pinching,
Hmm.
hitting. That's when I send my daughter away, and I have to dive in.
Right, right. And that's,
Mhm.
I mean, that's just hearing that. I'm just going, wow. Like, I have no, I'm kind of lost for words because I wouldn't know. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to react because I wouldn't know, because hearing this is like a huge eye opener. And for the folks who are actually listening, I really hope you're taking this in, because it's a complete eye opener for me. Totally, and this is something I was so happy that we got to dive in tonight. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know what a bad day would look like. And that's tough. I mean, that's tough for anybody at any age. It doesn't matter if you're 50 years old with a 10-year-old, or you're 16-year-old with a newborn, with a 2-year-old, you know, with teenage pregnancy the way it is now. You know what I mean? It
Mhm.
People need to learn this, because again, it's a huge eye opener for me. And this is why, like, I'm so happy I connected about this with you. And and the cool thing is, like, you're like this. I want to come on the show and talk about it. Like, you didn't even hesitate.
No,
And
no,
I.
because it needs to be. You know what? When I was navigating this journey,
Mhm.
I gravitated to the people online who were real, just straight up and real. Give it to me, shoot it to me straight. Let me know what this is
Yeah.
about. Um, because people need to know, so that they don't feel alone, because you're not alone,
Right.
and B, you can do this. And I was hoping to get people, which I have, message me privately so
Mhm.
I can give them a pep talk, or help them in any way, give them some pointers, which I have actually had people friend me, request me, and then write me, because I'm just passing the torch, like,
Mhm.
I just feel like these are things that happen. I don't want people to feel that they're alone,
Mhm.
and that these things don't happen. It doesn't happen to every person that's autistic. It doesn't happen to everybody on the spectrum. But if you have a child and these things are happening, that you have a support system. You have a support system in me. We can talk about it. These are some great, safety tools. These are some things I can tell you to do for your own mental sanity,
Mhm.
um, and also for protection of your kids. I mean, I go for training, but my son is in a facility where these therapists train me.
Mhm.
I go to, they call it parent training, and we're trained for this stuff, and they tell us about these things, and they make us aware about our kids and our kids' needs. And the best way to avoid a meltdown is to keep your kid regulated. So you kind of want them in a center where they're receiving their vestibular input and proprioceptive and everything they're going to get from occupational therapy, right down to physical therapy, along with a speech pathologist, and ABA for their behavior.
Right.
And I'm in a place that's all play based,
Mhm.
and it's wonderful. And then they offer the moms the same, like, come in, let me show you what you should be doing on yourself, to regulate yourself so you're in the right space, so that if that does happen, he can lean into you and you're not all over the place having an anxiety attack because this is happening.
And that's
So
actually
this
really cool.
place is I struck gold. Like I said, I was very blessed.
It sounds like a very, like, I wouldn't even say like a higher education, but like high power facility. Let's just
Oh
say
yeah.
that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
to get what your son needs, or for any child, doesn't have to be just your son. Any child
Right.
who's autistic can go there. That even the love you're telling me that they give these kids is unbelievable. And that God bless them, what I mean, because that's still a difficult job. That's not their kid, but if they're doing such a great job, that's awesome. More power
Yep.
to them.
They're incredible. They're incredible beings. They've changed my parenting. They made me a better mom. Like Tommy made me a better mom. I mean, we have our struggles, but I feel like he was given to me for a reason.
And I'll
It was
tell you,
perfect.
I actually agree with you on that. I mean, like, here we are, like I said, we've known each other for such a long time, and I'm so happy that we're, not just reconnecting on this, but really showing awareness to people, because again, a lot of people don't know. I think when people see this episode, Angela, and they see you, a true legit mom with these, no, I wouldn't call it even issues, with this power that you're having, to help your son, to take him to a really great facility, to get the training you need. And they have a support group for the family, which
Yes.
is phenomenal, because you don't hear a lot of police say, "Oh yeah, we have a support group. Why don't you come down?" You don't hear that. I don't hear it, period, because that's a difficult thing to do. It's to your husband too. I got to give him props, because he's got to be your rock when you need him there too, the most.
Yes, and he works. He works a lot so that I could do this.
Right.
Um, which is great, because that's the point. The point was, nobody's gonna care about my kid more than me, and I got to do the work. Like, this is my show. Like, in show business, the way I was regimented to get where I needed to be in show business, that fire within is now towards my son. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I need to do to get to where I need to be
Right.
for him, so that I could be his rock for the rest of his life, if need be so. And I'm going to have all the tools and, the skill to do it, to make, him feel like he's thriving, because he
Mm-hmm.
is,
I mean, again, I see some of the pictures. I see one of your pictures actually with your husband and your son, which looks like it was Turtleback Zoo.
It
It
was
looks,
Turtleback Zoo. Yeah, we had a field trip with his school.
and that looks cool. Like, you guys, he's smiling, and seeing
Yeah.
pictures like that is the greatest thing, because you're doing the right thing, and that's so cool that you can go with his school, with both of you and your husband, to go with
Yeah.
him too, um, and really be there. Like your husband, I work as much as anybody too. Like, my wife works; she's a school teacher. I work as a dispatcher. I'm out from 7 to 5 every morning, so it's hard, because the only time I get to see the kids is 2 hours at night, and I feel like it's not enough time. And and
Right.
your husband and you, I mean, it seems like you guys are doing, not seeing, I know and see it,
We're trying. We're trying.
but the passion in your eyes, I see it. The passion of what you're saying, I see it. And a lot of people are going to actually, I think, going to do really connect with this, because for me, I feel like I know a lot more, because reading what I've learned and what I wrote on my blog, it was just a little piece, but it really comes down to hearing it from you. You know what I mean? And speaking openly about it is such a great thing too, because I know we've been talking the last couple of days, and you said you were nervous. Can I just tell you, you are awesome.
Oh, thank you. I was like, I'm not a therapist, but I'm gonna
No,
do my best with
but
what I know. I can only go off of my son's,
yeah, but
me and my son.
that's the greatest thing though, because now there might be a few people that who are connected with me on my Instagram page and my YouTube, like, wow, wait a minute. did he just do something a little bit different? Because everybody knows me as this funny, like it's all about the jokes and the movies and stuff, but there's also a serious side to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and I know that.
this is something, you know, I actually have a kid, not a kid. I have an adult friend that I know. Matter of fact, he went to St. Mary's. I coached him his freshman year at St. Mary's High School. So when I left St. Mary's, I stayed. I didn't really leave. I ended up coaching
That's
for
great.
a few years with Sheridan and all them. So I had an opportunity. I didn't want to leave. It was a great opportunity to learn,
Great.
and that's something from the mistakes I made. I go, do not make these mistakes. If you're going to go play college football, you want to go play college football, you got to do these. And school is always first. Families, families first, school second. Football will always be last, guys. Football,
Yeah.
but everything else is on top. And one of his children are dealing with cerebral palsy,
Okay, yeah, CP, yeah.
and he's coming on the show to talk about
To
that.
talk about that. Awesome.
So I'm
Awesome.
and
That's what it's about.
and that's what it is. It's I want to make sure as much as I'm a little piece of podcasting here in New Jersey, New Jersey's such a huge state, and everyone talks about different things, the fun stuff, but no one really talks a lot about serious things. And this is something, it's near and dear to your heart because it's your son too. But I think
Yeah.
if people hear your story, people are going to gravitate to this and talk to you. You might get a little too many emails, maybe, but but it's good to hear from a true parent. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I,
Hmm.
I mean, I look at Instagram pictures and I see some people, and I'm like, now that learning from you a lot and reading what I've learned, I'm like, ooh, maybe their child's autistic, but I'm not a doctor either, but I can't confirm it either. You know what I mean? But
Right.
maybe hearing your side of the story, people are like, wow, I never knew that. Like I said, I always tell people, if I can reach out to one person that can listen to the show, I'm happy. You know what I mean?
That's why I post. That's why I did it. I mean, yeah.
And I
If
was
it's
posting
just
with you
one
too.
person,
And I
just
was
one
posting with
person.
you. Yeah. And I was posting with you because
Yeah.
it's just people need to know and got to be aware of this. And it's just not just the month of April or the 1 week of it should be every day that
And
people.
it's not just autism, it's a mindset. Like I
Yeah.
said, this is my battle.
Mhm.
So that's why I post about it and I fight for it. But there are so many people with other battles like
Yeah.
CP and other things that are going on, whether within themselves or their families. And it just made you realize, just be kind. You never know what somebody's going through.
Nope.
Be kind
And
and listen, really listen, you know.
and that's something that a lot of people don't really do. Listen.
Yeah.
It's a thing that a lot of people don't do very well, and something I've learned a lot more because you never know. You might say, "Hey, Alex, I need your help on something." Sure, not a problem. What do you need? You know what I mean? Eh,
Mhm.
you know, you you're definitely a positive light for not just your son, but I think you're gonna realize you're gonna be a positive light for a lot of people with the show airs because I think it's gonna touch a lot of people. It's touching me big time here because you
Thank you.
just seeing you, knowing you for so many years, and so much you have accomplished to say I'm going to retire and I'm going to be an activist for this, just for my son, because I want him to have the same opportunities as other kids too. And that's so awesome. And you're taking on that whole new role. You know, you're a mom, but you're a mom that's taking on a bigger life and role, but still there for your daughter too, which not the
Yeah.
easiest thing. And
No, it's not.
I have two kids of my own, and it's difficult too. You know what I mean? I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Hmm.
One was born not COVID, one was born during COVID.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that presented some challenges too.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Absolutely.
and but hearing your story tonight, it really opens up a whole new light. And I think, you might not realize like how many people it's going to touch. I think it's gonna really touch on a lot of people, and it it's just amazing to hear this. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things like you just don't realize it,
Mhm.
and like you said, you just don't know what people are going through.
I just felt like I wanted to find a safe space
Hmm.
for people to relate and to be able to talk and vent. Like I have people that I don't even know that
Hmm.
friended me and they're like, I'm so glad you posted that because, my child or my sister or whoever, we were just we just got the diagnosis and, I felt so alone and I really don't know how to talk to my friends or my family. And, I'm like, I know, because I was there.
It's not the easiest
I was
thing,
there
and
and I was searching for people that I could relate to, and I would go online and then I found some really amazing moms. And then, I came to this facility for my son and I found some amazing moms there and
mhm.
people there. And that's just kind of, I just want to pass the torch on to somebody else who's feeling this way.
And you
And
know
if
what?
it's just one person, then I'm fine with that because I was that one person and I
Mhm.
really needed that. And so that's why I just was inspired to do the same.
And you know
Just
what? And you inspired me to had you on the show. It was an inspiration. You know what I mean? Not to just really you and I. We always talked, but like we never talked in depth. And when I asked you that, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you." I was
mhm.
very surprised because a lot of people were very reserved when it came to that. So I got to thank you for opening up to me on that too, because I never knew. You know what I mean? Like to me, when I look at your pictures, I go, wow, she's doing great. She's got a loving family. She's got two great kids. She's got an awesome husband, you know, but again, you just don't know. So,
Right.
everyone says, oh, your kids are so beautiful. And I say thank you because, I'm very blessed with a truly awesome wife and two great kids. I never thought that would happen. And I'll be honest, I never thought that would ever happen because, I was always
Yeah.
busy. I was
Yeah.
busy with trying to set up a career on stuff. And, you know, I worked at St. Mary's for a couple of years coaching. I volunteered for that because I wanted to learn. I said, wow,
Mhm.
I think I found my calling is becoming a coach. And I
Mhm.
loved coaching those kids. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed every minute. It was a
Yeah.
lot of hours between going to community college, working part-time somewhere else, and teaching kids. It was a lot. It's a lot harder than you realize.
Yeah.
And when I left, it was like the hardest time for me because that's when my dad was sick and he passed on. And that was something that hurts a lot and to this day. But there's a reasoning that happened. And now as I pass on the stories to my kids, like I have a one good picture of me and my dad, and I'm like, yeah, your grandfather, he was a loud one during a game because she goes, are you gonna be like that? I'm like, I'm gonna try not to be. I'm gonna try to be the cool collective non-coaching dad, but it's going to be hard for me because I like teaching her, and now with my son Anthony, he's two, he's starting, I don't know what he's starting to do. He's starting to he looks like he's getting ready for a wrestling career.
Oh,
Because
really?
all he does is jump off the couch and do body slams. And I'm just like, dude, please, I just ate dinner. So, but on that note, I gotta say thank you, Angela. It from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you coming on tonight and telling your story to the people because they don't realize what's going on. And I think people are going to hear a lot. I think we're going to hear a lot in the next couple of weeks.
I hope
Um,
so.
I think we will. And like I said, your story is incredible, and you and your husband, your daughter, are truly an incredible family, man. I can't thank you enough because it means, first of all, it means the world to me for you having you on tonight. And you telling your story the way it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, what you have to do. I gotta say, it's just and truly cool. And I can't thank you enough. Before we say goodbye, if you wanted to share anything else, like the name of the facility where they go, and any spots that you talk to on online or stuff, please let the people
Sure.
know where they can go.
Well, my son goes to FTC Kids. It's in Little Falls, New Jersey. And he receives, occupational therapy there, ABA, with Alicia. Her name's Alicia. She's the BCBA. The owner is Raina.
Mm.
Really cool people. He gets speech, occupational, physical, everything, ABA therapy. Really cool place. Whether your kid's on the spectrum or not, if they, there's kids there that have different disabilities or kids that are struggling with just, speech. There's a speech pathologist, so it doesn't really matter. There's a place for your child there. It is friggin' awesome. So FTC Kids in Little Falls, New Jersey. Also, good autism moms to follow that I've learned a lot from are Letters to Nick and Noah on Instagram and at Peace Love Autism. Her name is Tara. She's a great follow too. Yeah, so I have my autism mom crew that I chill with at the facility. The other moms whose kids are part of my son's program, and they're awesome too, and they're on Instagram too.
Cool.
So yeah, but those are definitely probably the big ones. Yeah.
Well, I definitely am going to post it, and I'm definitely going to write it on my little spot when the show's released. I'll have a website for it and everything on my side, so people can actually look for it and definitely see what they, where they can look at everything. So I'll definitely be posting that up when the show's released. But again, guys, I gotta thank Angela for coming on. Here's another St. Mary's class member, class of '99. That's really important, that came out and talked about her son and her family, how they are together. Truly amazing. Thank you so much, Angela, for coming out. It's great seeing you too on top of it. It's been too long, and I'm so glad that we got this opportunity tonight. And
Yes.
I appreciate everything. As you can see, guys, we're all about fun too and having fun on the show, but sometimes we got to hit the serious note. And tonight was definitely a good one to hit. And I'm so happy to be part of it with Angela on this. And if you ever need anything, Angela, let us know. If you want to come back on and share more what's going on, and if other moms say, hey, I want to get on this, you could definitely tell them to check me out at the show. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We are going to be.
You can follow me too.
Oh,
on
yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
Angela Brydon 13.
Thank you. I forgot to say that, and I will post that up
Follow me
too.
too.
I will post all this up. And all I gotta say is thank you, guys. And like I say every night at the end of my show, love, peace, and happiness. Good night, everybody, and thank you again.
Thank you. Great time. God bless.